Zimbabwe's incoming leader has hailed the start of the country's new and unfolding democracy as he made his return from exile. Addressing supporters hours after returning to Harare, Emmerson Mnangagwa pledged to create jobs and kickstart the faltering Zimbabwean economy. The 75-year-old will be sworn in as president on Friday, 2 weeks after he was sacked as vice president by longtime ruler Robert Mugabe and fled to South Africa. Mr. Mnangagwa said, "I pledge myself to be your servant. I appeal to all genuine patriotic Zimbabweans to come together. We work together. No one is more important than the other. We are all Zimbabweans." Video Mugabe's successor hails new democracy. "We want to grow our economy. We want peace in our country. We want jobs, jobs, jobs in our country." Who is the crocodile? Emmerson Mnangagwa, the president-designate, claimed he left Zimbabwe after being informed of plans to eliminate me, adding that he was subjected to poisoning in August. To loud cheers, he referred to former President Robert Mugabe and said, "The people have spoken. The voice of the people is the voice of God." After emerging from hiding in South Africa, Mr. Mnangagwa met with South African President Jacob Zuma and flew to Zimbabwe in a private jet. Video Robert Mugabe, end of the dictator. He then met other politicians and officials from ruling party ZANU-PF and was briefed on what has been happening in his absence, Chief Whip Love Matshook said. The huge challenges facing Zimbabwe's next leader. Speaking to supporters outside the party headquarters, Mr. Mnangagwa revealed he had been in constant contact with military leaders during his exile. He also praised the military and General Constantino Chiwenga, commander of Zimbabwe Defense Forces, for managing this process very peacefully. Mr. Mnangagwa's dismissal on 6 October plunged the country into a political crisis and prompted military chiefs to take control of the capital and place Mr. Mugabe under house arrest. Image 1980. Mr. Mugabe and then UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher meet the year Rhodesia became Zimbabwe. Image 1979. Robert Mugabe and the Zimbabwe African People's Union ZAPU leader Joshua Nkomo at the Lancaster House talks that led to the end of colonial rule. Image 1980. Mr. Mugabe, then newly elected as Prime Minister of Zimbabwe, holds a press conference in his garden. Image 1982. Mr. Mugabe visited the Queen at Buckingham Palace with his first wife, Sally. Image 1984. Mr. Mugabe addressing a crowd at Harare Stadium a year after suppressing an armed rebellion in Ndebeleland. Image 1984. He was awarded Doctor Honoris Causa at the University of Harare, an institution he would later be Chancellor of. Image 1986. Mr. Mugabe leaves the scene of the African National Congress ANC offices that were bombed days earlier by a South African commando. Image 1986. Cuban President Fidel Castro shares a laugh with Zimbabwean President Canaan Banana R and then Prime Minister Mr. Mugabe L. Image 1988. Mr. Mugabe speaks to the press at the United Nations about the Africa Prize for Leadership. Image 1993. Chinese President Jiang Zemin welcomes Mr. Mugabe R with a Chinese honor guard during a welcoming ceremony outside the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. Image 1996. Robert and Grace Mugabe married in a ceremony attended by 6,000 guests. Image the couple became known for their outfits. She was nicknamed First Shopper and Gucci Grace. Image 2005. Mr. Mugabe was sometimes seen asleep in public in later years, such as here at an African Union meeting, but friends insisted he remained sharp of mind. Image Mr. Mugabe addresses a rally in Sanyati, November 2005, on the eve of the senatorial elections. Image 2017. With his time in office drawing to a close, Mr. Mugabe was seen negotiating with generals. Pick Herald newspaper. The 93-year-old initially refused to stand down, but tendered his resignation on Tuesday after impeachment proceedings were launched by the National Parliament. Mr. Mugabe had ruled Zimbabwe since 1980 and was, prior to his resignation, the world's oldest head of state. Under his presidency, the southern African country's economy collapsed and unemployment rose to more than 90%.